Ah, that classic PS1 startup. Ah. Well, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another commentary. This being the 10th commentary I'm ever doing. And I thought, you know what? Let's try and make something special out of this. This is Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3. Yes, a 3 in 1. Because fuck it, why not? It's like do an arcade mode run with all of these games and just showcase my love of Street Fighter, because recently I've been kind of going back into a mood for the series. So starting off, let's do things right. Street Fighter Alpha. Thank you. Warrior's Dreams. I don't know why it has a subtitle and it doesn't have the subtitle in Japan. It should be noted, first of all, that these games are called Street Fighter Zero in Japan. Which is odd because some people may think, oh, this is a prequel to all the Street Fighter games. But if you actually look at the chronology, no. The Street Fighter Alpha games take place after Street Fighter 1, but before Street Fighter 2. As the chronology goes, you start with Street Fighter 1, the Street Fighter Alpha games, the Street Fighter 2 games, the Street Fighter 4 games, then Street Fighter 5, and then Street Fighter 3, and then finally Street Fighter 6. Chronology is a bit weird, but yeah, might as well. Okay, before I go off the track, might as well start with my why I like Street Fighter and my experiences with the series. So I've known about Street Fighter for a good while. Like, it's the most iconic fighting game series out there. It's what Street Fighter 2 pioneered a bunch of stuff, and without it, we wouldn't have series like Mortal Kombat, Virtua Fighter, Tekken, Killer Instinct. Yeah, or a bunch of those. And it's so interesting to think that my experience with the series. And we're a bit rocky because I've known about Street Fighter for years. I mean, you probably remember from previous commentaries that time when I was younger, I would just scroll through the PSN store. Well, that was that I probably found about Street Fighter via my research of PSN store, but didn't really think much strongly about it. I think my first time I started to really care about Street Fighter was, oddly enough, when Ryu was announced as a playable character in Smash 4 during its DLC cycle. He was leaked beforehand alongside Fire Emblem's Roy, but it was really cool to see. I just wish that it hadn't leaked so people could have reacted to him proper. Now I think they will never to make that mistake ever again. But yeah. Because after that, I was like, I know about Street Fighter. Let's try and get into the games proper. And I booted on my PS3 and I tried out the Street Fighter 3 First Strike Online Edition demo. And I didn't get to play a whole lot and I sucked, but it was interesting. And I also played on an emulator the original Street Fighter 2, the World Warrior on Super Nintendo. And because I put on the easiest difficulty, I did beat it. But it was interesting playing through that and just trying the series out. I wouldn't really play much of Street Fighter till way later. But in 2017, something very interesting happened. So 2017 was like the launch of the Nintendo Switch. And Capcom, alongside many other third-party developers, were still very indecisive, very cautious about how to approach the Switch. Because before then, we barely had any hybrid consoles of that nature, and the Switch came off of the Wii U, which was a very console. So Capcom, like many others, was very unsure of that. So what they did was they repackaged Street Fighter 2 again for the billionth time and made Ultra Street Fighter 2 the final challengers. Pretty much, from what I've seen, pretty much the de facto Street Fighter 2 version that you can play on the Switch. I never got to actually own that game at the time of this recording, but a store in Lisbon was making a tournament of Ultra Street Fighter 2, and I decided to join. And I didn't get far, I didn't beat it, but I did get a Street Fighter T-shirt that I still own, and I mean, sometimes I'm a bit scared of using it because I feel like maybe the ink will get off, but it is a shirt I like using, especially during the summertime, and I just really enjoy it. Afterwards, especially when I started like being an adult and getting my own income, well, not exactly, whatever. I started I started getting some Switch games on my own, and one of them was I was able to, by the skin of my teeth, get a physical copy of the Nintendo Switch version of Street Fighter 30 for the Versus Collection, and that's when I started really getting into Street Fighter proper. While those are the arcade versions of the game, they don't have many modes. Like training mode is only available for 4 of the 12 games. I got to experience a lot of Street Fighter from that, like a few versions of 2. A little bit of 1, although I had played a little bit of 1 by hacking it into my Wii, because well, the Wii Shop Channel was didn't finish it, never finished it, but I really liked the soundtrack of the TurboGrafx-16 version. When I heard it in the arcade, my ears was like, ah! So, fuck that. But I played a little bit of Street Fighter 2. I tried Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, but I remember hearing that they put the busted version of the game. Because when Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo was released in arcades in the United States, it actually came with a bug that made the computer super hard, even on the easiest difficulty. And it was something that I think Capcom USA had to apologize later. But for some reason, in the 30th Anniversary Collection, they included that version. Why? Why would you do that? That's so dumb. And they never patched it, unfortunately. I wish that collection got more patched outside of, like, include training mode for every single game, you know, but they didn't, and oh well, but it's still a fine collection for what it is. And that's how I got to play for the Alpha games, for the Street Fighter Freeze, and actually, it was because of that collection that I got a bigger appreciation for widescreen modes in games, because Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, and only Second Impact, so all games include like a fake widescreen option that just like stretches the game. And I'm like, natural, so I personally don't use it. But Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, if you go to another one of the game's options, you could actually turn, because Street Fighter 3 Second Impact actually got widescreen arcade cabinets, they included that version in, and while it's not super optimized for that, it really made me appreciate like widescreen in games because it just looks so much prettier and so much better, and like, wow, I really enjoy playing Street Fighter 3 Second Impact that way. And sometimes whenever I pop in the 30th Anniversary Collection, I actually sometimes prefer playing Second Impact over First Strike, simply because I really enjoy that widescreen. But that collection was really fun to go through. And in playing First Strike proper, I had to use a bunch of save states because, man, sometimes the final boss was really hard. But it was really fun playing for those games. As for what you're seeing right now, all these games I'm playing via the PS1 versions of the games because I really wanted to showcase the arranged soundtracks that Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 got. Alpha 3 was like the easiest version for me to get because I have a Saturn emulator, but I'm not sure how confident I can use that one. Even though they are 2D games, I'm like, Saturn emulator has failed me in the past, so I'm not sure. So I decided to stick with PS1 for that. But they run great, they record great. But the thing is, the PS1 versions, I think also the Saturn versions, but especially the PS1 versions, they have a lot of loading screens, and the loading times can get quite long. So what you're seeing here is me editing down all of those loading times, just so I wouldn't really have to bother with them. Just like last time, there was also a controller issue in one of the matches in Alpha 2, but thankfully it only happened once and never again. For these playthroughs, I play through all these games, and sometimes I would edit out some times where I would get a continue, so you guys don't have to rewatch the same match again. But also, I would play these games on the medium difficulty so I could see the endings. And you know, I was considering, especially for Alpha 2, I was considering like not doing that and just ending the arcade ending in, but I decided to stick with it, and then eventually I was able to beat it because Alpha 2 really kicked my ass when I was playing it. And I felt it was appropriate to like play Street Fighter Alpha 1 as Ryu, Alpha 2 as Ken, and then Alpha 3 as Akuma. The characters I can most easily grasp, especially Ryu and Akuma. Especially Akuma. Maybe I like playing as Akuma too much. Yeah, I have, and then after, just going back on my experiences with Street Fighter again, after the 35th Virtual Anniversary Collection, I would eventually get Ultra Street Fighter 4 on my PlayStation 3, and I also enjoyed that, although I didn't play that game that much. And then, during my 3DS hunt, I will get the 3D edition of Street Fighter 4, Super Street Fighter 4, to be able to play with a friend. But so far, we haven't really figured out the online, because the last time we tried it, it wasn't really working, and that kind of saddens me. I'm not sure if the servers are down or anything. I don't remember seeing any announcement of the servers shutting down, so it is kind of a mystery. But so far, the only games I really haven't experienced are Street Fighter 5 and 6, and simply because I don't have the consoles to play them. I have played a little bit of Street Fighter 5 back when they were doing free trials on Steam, but my computer's not the best at running it. It ran like utter trash, even on the lowest settings, so I'm not trying that again. If I'm playing Street Fighter 5, it's when I get a PS5, so I can play both PS5 games and PS4 games. My computer is shit, and I don't have a PS4, so might as well get a PS5. Same thing with Street Fighter 6, and Street Fighter 6 just looks really fucking good. And I'm very much excited for what's to come for Street Fighter 6 in the future. Especially when Akuma releases, because his design looks really fucking cool. Although they're still keeping the Lion King main from Street Fighter 5. That's kind of funny. But yeah, as for the rest, yeah, I think recently I've just been in a Street Fighter mood. Especially because recently I got X-Men vs. Street Fighter for my Saturn. And yeah, I guess this is something I didn't actually get to talk about in my Castle of Illusion commentary, which is I got a Sega Saturn here in Japan, and it's really fucking fun. I got some games like I got Virtua Fighter Remix, Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, Fighting Mega Mix, Sonic Jam, Night City Dreams, Christmas Nights, Burning Rangers, baby, and Sega Rally. And recently I got X-Men vs. Street Fighter alongside the cartridge that is needed to play the game. And X-Men vs. Street Fighter being Japanese exclusive because Sega of America refused to produce the 4 megabyte cartridges for everywhere else because the Saturn was dying. So this was one of the more important games. I'm very excited to play this game when I get to it because so far my Saturn just needed a bit of fixing. The laser is dead, but thankfully, thanks to one of my roommates, I've been able to purchase a new laser, and now we're just waiting for that to come, and hopefully I'm able to fix the Saturn and get that up and running. And the Saturn came with 2 controllers, so I'm able to play with friends. I was able, before the laser fried out again, I was able to play Virtua Fighter Remix with a friend for like over an hour, and that was really fun. Just dicking around with that game. Yeah, even if it's an oldie, it's outdated, but you can still have a lot of fun with those old games. And maybe I'll get like Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2 on the Saturn because I could do that. Alpha 3 was also released on the Saturn. It was a very late style release, and it's very expensive because of that. So I'm not sure if I would ever get that. There's other because Sega Saturn was a 2D powerhouse. There was a lot of games. Like a game I'm considering getting is like Street Fighter the movie, the game, which would be funny. But speaking of that, I actually watched Street Fighter the movie yesterday, and the movie is bad. It's a bit all over the place. The cinematography could have been better, even if the action is good. But man, I just had fun with that movie, especially with some of its lines, like "Quick, change the channel," or you know what? There's a lot of lines. Watch it if you're curious about it. Yeah, I'd say. It just feels like there's a big distinction between the first half and the second half. Like the first half doesn't really feel like a Street Fighter movie, but then by the second half it like transforms into a Street Fighter movie, which is odd. And then I heard some of the development behind it, like Capcom themselves co-financed the movie, so most of the money was from them, and they already knew they wanted Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile, but they didn't realize, but they didn't know that he had an accent because they were watching the Japanese dubbed movie, which is like, bruh, do a fucking research before this shit. Like it was kind of dumb of them to not really realize that Jean-Claude Van Damme had an accent and wouldn't really fit that much for Guile, considering Guile is American and Jean-Claude Van Damme is partially French, So, I don't know. But, yeah. That's the end of Street Fighter Alpha 1. That was really short. Yeah, that's why I decided to combine all these 3 Alpha games into one video, because recording just the arcade mode for all 3 of them wasn't going to take that long. And in case of Alpha 1 and 2, you don't have much outside of arcade modes. You have versus mode, which, I'm by myself, so I'm not going to be able to record that. And then there's like training mode, which one more to say about that. But yeah, Alpha 1 is now done. Let's return in just a bit. Intermission!
I'm sorry. I don't remember any of it.
You don't remember?
For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Okay, they just had to do that. Yes, it's Street Fighter Alpha 2 time, let's go! Yeah, what was I talking about again? Ah, shit. With Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2, there's not much to record, so that's why I decided to do just arcade modes. With Alpha 3, there is a bit more, but I would have to unlock that first, and I decided, I think arcade mode is good enough for what we're doing today, which is pretty much a big Street Fighter retrospective. There's a lot to get into when it comes to Street Fighter. I already told my experiences, but like, there's the characters and how Street Fighter has been kind of like on a bit of a renaissance right now with Street Fighter 6 coming out and people really enjoying it. And man, it's a really nice time to be a Street Fighter fan right now. I do hear that like there's a bit like some people are now thinking that Street Fighter 6 is a bit, because it was people really enjoyed it at the time. Like now it's being a bit dead. But I get the feeling that over time, the developers will address some of the concerns that people have and just, make Street Fighter 6 a bit better. Because Street Fighter 6 is already really good, so now it's just a matter of adding more characters and adding costumes for the characters themselves and stuff like that. But yeah, this is Street Fighter Alpha 2. Came out 1 year after Street Fighter Alpha 1. And it's pretty much a bit of an update. In terms of chronology, Street Fighter Alpha 2 actually overrides Alpha 1 in terms of storyline. So, kind of making Alpha 1 non-canon, but with Alpha 2 being canon, it's replacement. So, like, Alpha 1's kind of canon, it's just that Alpha 2 expands on that, I believe. Or just replaces it. It just replaces it, yeah. And Alpha 3, that one being a full-on sequel. So, Street Fighter 3 is also the same way. Second Impact replaces New Generation, and First Strike is a sequel to Second Impact. Very funny how that works. Well, I'm not sure how Street Fighter 4 does things, but I think the story might be the same across all versions, I believe? I'm not sure. And then Street Fighter 5, it has an actual story mode, which is the main story of the game, and then there's character-specific little story modes in that game. And then Street Fighter 6 is its own story mode world tour. And then the arcade endings and stuff like that. But yeah. But it's interesting how Street Fighter kind of follows its story. Because, a lot of people don't play the games for a story. And I get that. But I sometimes feel interested in the story of Street Fighter. Even if sometimes it's not the best, I just really like following these characters. There's my mains, Ryu, Akuma. Akuma being called Goki in Japan. And him being the kind of evil, but not like evil as Bison. It's interesting in analyzing like Akuma because he wants to kill, but he won't kill anybody, and He's not like trying to rule over the world. He's just kind of going around and challenging people, and if that person is worthy, he will probably like fight them to the death. I think that's what Akuma is getting at. And then he became canon in Tekken 7 storyline, and that was something. It's so fucking weird how Akuma got everywhere after he became a thing. Like, Ryu has been going to many places, but Akuma was the one that they interacted with the X-Men first, with X-Men Children of the Atom, and then like X-Men vs. Street Fighter came, and had like mostly a balanced roster, like okay, 8 Street Fighter characters, 8 X-Men characters, but then Akuma is also there, so it's 9 Street Fighter characters versus 8 X-Men characters. You can't escape the Akuma, and then he would reappear in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. He wouldn't appear in Marvel vs. Capcom, but would come back in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and then he would also appear in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but wouldn't appear in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And Akuma has been everywhere, almost everywhere. Like, although Ryu tends to be the one that appears the most. Definitely, yes. Because Ryu is like the poster boy of Street Fighter. Although things may change now with Luke in Street Fighter 6. Beast mode, baby. I love that his English voice actor Alex Lee is super into the fan base and really excited to play the character. He also is very much down with making memes and stuff like that. He's even on his personal YouTube channel. He's even like playing Street Fighter 6 and invites other fellow actors from the game, like Travis Williams for Guile, Allegra Clark for Riza, and people like that, to just have fun with him and just review memes. It's just really fun. I like that. Although unlike Street Fighter 3, they're like not completely ditching Ryu away. Ryu was in Street Fighter 3, but his role really wasn't as big as Alex. But in Street Fighter 6, yeah, I do like that Ryu is still there, but his role is definitely played down because his arc is pretty much over. He beat Bison, he beat Kage, Evil Ryu, and came to terms with his inner demons, and now he's just pretty much doing side quests now. He's pretty much just being a piece of none. So much so that he can now use a phone and write messages like their emails. He's a dad. And now he has a beard too. It's like, there's so much to talk about with Street Fighter that I don't know exactly where to start. Like, okay, I've started. I already said some things, but like, there's just so much to talk about. But I guess we might as well talk about the games in question: Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3. My specific experiences with them, because outside of the 35th Anniversary Collection, I did eventually buy the PS1 version of Alpha 1 on the PSN store. And that is a thing that I would like to get. It's just the PS1 versions of Alpha 2 and Alpha 3 via the PSN store. But now, me considering getting the Saturn versus Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, maybe I want to get Alpha 2 right away. But why not? I mean, Alpha is Alpha, and I just really enjoy these games. In terms of game mechanics, Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, they're not that much different from like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But they're just nice. I just really like their aesthetic. I really like the soundtrack, especially the arranged soundtrack that came with the PS1 versions of these games. It's just really nice. That's why I'm even considering getting these games again, even though I already can play the arcade versions of them in 30th Anniversary Collection. Also, another reason why I'm considering getting them is because they have a training mode in the home console versions. Alpha 1 was actually the PS1 and Sega Saturn versions of Alpha 1 was actually the first ever time Street Fighter got a training mode. And that's really cool. I always appreciate training modes in games because I could just fuck around with characters and learn their moves. And that's cool. That's cool. And I really wish that the 35th Anniversary Collection had training modes for all the games instead of only the 4 that had online. But it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, with Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, they're very simple games, but they're very easy to pick up and play. With Alpha 2 being pretty much a refined version of Alpha 1, but I still like the aesthetic of Alpha 1. I mean, all these games have unique stages, and while the stages like are just different in terms of backgrounds, it's still nice to see and have. And Alpha 3, that's the crazy one. But that's the one that really changed a whole lot. But you know what? I might save that for when we get to Alpha 3. Well, in like a bit after we're done with Alpha 2. But Alpha 1 I did play, like sometimes I would just boot up the PS1 version of Alpha 1 and just fuck around in the training mode. Because, I don't know, it's just a game that just feels good to play. And when a game feels good to play, yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. I like that. Speaking of which, this is actually the first time I'm actually playing the PS1 version of Alpha 2 and Alpha 3. Because while I've played the arcade versions, I have never played the PS1 versions, even though I considered buying them, like I said earlier. Although maybe I'll get the Sega Saturn version of Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, like I said earlier. But we'll see. Oh, Fujitsu product placement in the background. That's nice. They're a Japanese company responsible for like paper, I believe, or is it printers? I believe. Yeah. I think they've also dabbled in other businesses, but it's interesting that they have product placement in this game. But yeah, Alpha 2. I noticed that Alpha 2 is way more difficult than Alpha 1 when I was playing for this because I got a lot of continues, especially during later fights with Sakura and Ryu. I was having a tough time fighting them. I had to continue a whole lot. But it was nice getting to play this Ken because I hadn't played this Ken for a good while. I just normally got stuck as just normally gravitated towards Ryu or Kuma. But it was nice playing as Ken again, and I had to like kind of learn his differences because while his moveset is somewhat similar to Ryu's, he has his own special moves and stuff like that. And eventually in future games he would have his own properties. Like this one introduced the fiery Shoryuken, which you can do when you do a heavy Shoryuken. But I think future games would also expand on that even further. With Street Fighter 6, him being on the run and for a crime he did not commit, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, it was nice playing as Ken. I hadn't played as Ken in a while because in Smash Brothers, like they put Ken in the game, and that's great. It's just that I actually prefer playing Ryu over Ken because Ryu has the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku that does one strong hit instead of multiple weak hits. And in Street Fighter, when I was playing for Alpha 2, I didn't mind that much. But when I'm playing for Smash Brothers, I actually prefer the singular strong hits over that. And then there were just some things I just preferred more with Ryu. So Ryu in Smash, that it is. But with Ken, it was nice. The Alpha series was interesting because it was the point between 1 and 2. So they introduced some characters that we hadn't seen in Street Fighter 2 and we only saw in 1, like Birdie or eventually Eagle. But Eagle would only be in like the PSP version of Alpha 3, I believe. And they would also introduce some Final Fight characters like Guy and Saddam in Alpha 1, then Rolento in Alpha 2, and then Cody in Alpha 3. And Cody being under arrest but escaped prison with his bare fucking fists. Wow. And eventually we would see characters like Birdie again in Street Fighter 5. We would see guys, Guy, Cody, and Rolento in Street Fighter 4. We never saw Mike Hager, which is interesting, but it's probably because Zangief already feels the type. Although, it is confirmed that Street Fighter and Final Fight take place in the same universe. So much so that the place where you go around in Street Fighter 6's World Tour is Metro City, which is pretty cool. And Alpha 1 also introduced characters like Charlie, or Nash as he's known in Japan, and now he's known as Charlie Nash in Street Fighter 5, which is pretty much like, I think, Guile's best friend. And he also shares some moves with Guile. And then Guile himself would appear in Alpha 3. The biggest thing about Charlie, though, is that he's fucking murdered in Alpha 2. Yeah, he's just straight up murdered, I think, in Alpha 2. In Alpha 3, he would still come back, but I think his appearance is not gonna there. And then in Street Fighter 5, you would be revived from the dead. And then at the end of Street Fighter 5 story mode, he makes the ultimate sacrifice to beat Bison. And then Ryu finishes him off. And stuff like that. God! Controller! Thankfully, this was the only time that happens. Sakura's boss fight was really boss fight was just really hard. I continue to punch if you can tell by my score. But thankfully I was able to at least to eventually beat her. The song is really nice though, so it was nice to get destroyed by her song while being constantly beaten by her. I died. Oh well. But yeah, and then Street Fighter Alpha 2, we got Zangief. I like to say Zangief on occasion. And Dawson back. We got Sakura, which is a fan favorite. Basically, an idol of Ryu, who's an internal schoolgirl, even though she now has a job in Street Fighter 5. And just an overall nice person. Just like idolizes Ryu. And tries so much that she tries to have she basically stole her fighting style from Ryu, which is kind of fun. Also, I really like how her stage looks. Really nice. In the streets of Tokyo. I actually got to Tokyo recently, and it was fun, especially going to Kabukicho and singing Bakamitai in karaoke. That was fun. Yeah, and then we got Rolento, which I don't know much about the dude, but I hear that in Street Fighter 4, some people don't like him because it was a bit annoying. It happens. I mean, Adon in Street Fighter Alpha, who was also a character from Street Fighter 1, he pieces people off. He's like sort of a disciple of Sagat's, and Adon wants to surpass Sagat's, and Sagat just beats his ass. We would see Adon again in Street Fighter 4, but I think that's it. I don't think he ever came back. There's some characters that I would like to see come back in like Street Fighter 6. Like, I know he just came back to Street Fighter 5, but I want Dan Hibiki back, because Dan Hibiki is hilarious. I love him. I want him back. He should be a staple in Street Fighter now. He's just like how Ryu and Akuma are staples now. Dan should be a staple once again. I want him. He's funny. I am glad in Street Fighter 6 they pretty much added the World Warriors from Street Fighter 8, the original 8, to the roster, up to the base roster, because people just really like them. I wonder if they'll add like Sagat again. I'm not sure about Vega. I'm not sure about Balrog, although Balrog could return. They're bringing back Eds. So at least there's that, because according to Street Fighter 5 story, Balrog took Ed in, and then educated him, and then Ed left Balrog by the end of his story. But I'm not sure if they'll bring Balrog back. Fawn, not sure. And Bison, I mean, he could come back, but I think they want him dead for the time being, so maybe not. But Sagat would be interesting to see him, especially with the redesign he got in 5. I actually really like his redesign. It seems like the new villain of Street Fighter 6 is JP, from what I've heard. I don't know much about the story mode, I just know that he's the villain. So that's interesting. I wonder how Street Fighter 6 could build on the story with the new characters in their own arcade modes. I'm curious what Akuma's story will be when he comes out in like spring, I believe. So it'll be like winter 2024 with Ed will come out. So like January, February, maybe March, and then like March, April, May, or maybe even June for Akuma, and then we'll see what comes afterwards. Those are the characters that are coming in right now. And Aki came out recently, and she's a crazy bitch. She makes Juri look tame, which is funny as shit. And then there was Rashid that came back, and that was a character that I really liked from Street Fighter 5, so I'm glad that he returned. I mean, I think he's a favorite from Street Fighter 5. He's just a character that a lot of people like. I just really like his personality. He's just really fun. So, glad that after the base roster, he was the first guy to come back. That's really cool. Also, like some of the newcomers. I mean, I've talked about Luke. Jamie being a drunk disciple from Yin and Yang. That's cool and funny. And I really like his theme because it reminds me of my baby, Burning Rangers. There's even like a mashup between Burning Rangers and his theme, and it's really funky. I really like it. There was Lily, I think she's a disciple from T-Hawk. I don't know much about her character, but she seems cool. Kimberly also looks pretty cool. Marisa, I've seen a lot of memes about her, and she looks cool. Manon, I really like Manon, especially her voice actress, Jeremy Lay. That's cool. Just really, the newcomers are just really cool. And also, they brought back DJ. He was in Street Fighter 4, but he was in Street Fighter 5. They brought him back with a new redesign, new voice actor, and all that stuff. And honest to God, it's an improvement because from what I've seen of DJ, he just looks like a very really cool dude. He just goes with the vibe and likes music. Like previously, where he was supposed to be that, but his smile did not give that impression. And yeah, just Street Fighter 6, I think, just does a lot of things right. I'm just very curious for his future. Where with Street Fighter 5, I remember I did actually follow a little bit of its development at first, just seeing what the newcomers were. And one of the main things I remember is that you don't need to buy updates for the game anymore. Like afterwards, all characters you can, as long as you play the game, you can get all DLC characters without paying a single penny. And it's like, that's interesting when they announced that. But I remember that a lot of them were pretty expensive. So, and now that I never got Street Fighter 5, I know whenever I get Street Fighter 5, it will probably be with Champion Edition, and then I'll probably get the Season 5 characters, you know, Dan Biki, and then Rose, Oro, which they brought him back from Street Fighter 3, which is cool. And then Akira from Rival Schools. I've never played at Rival Schools, but it's cool that they brought her to the game, and she looks cool. And then Luke, that was Luke's first appearance, because he's actually technically not a newcomer to Street Fighter 6. He was added as the last character to Street Fighter 5 as Tease for Street Fighter 6. And his whole design looks funky, but you already got a taste of his personality, especially with his voice actor. Like, he literally calls Vega cringe, which is just like, oh God. He's definitely that dude, that kind of person. And then in Street Fighter 6, it's like, boom, the force, whoops, sorry, boom, still married. I love the amount of personality that Alex Lee gave to Luke. I cannot stress this enough. Like, I fucking love the amount of energy that Alex Lee gave to Luke. One of my favorite memes are just like, yo, my name is Luke, yo, I'm the future of Street Fighter, yo, just the fucking face. Maybe I'll edit it in later, I don't know. Yeah, that's the end of Alpha 2. We'll be going through the entire credits because, unlike Alpha 1, they actually show the credits for this. I'm not sure if in Alpha 1 or Alpha 3, if I had gone with a higher difficulty, they would have shown the credits. But I just decided to go on the normal difficulty because that's the minimum difficulty you need to get the arcade endings for these characters. And that's why it took me quite a bit to go through arcade mode in Street Fighter Alpha 2. But in Street Fighter Alpha 1 and Alpha 3, it wasn't that hard. I continued a few times, but not much. So Alpha 2, it really felt like there was a bit of a difficulty spike by the end of the arcade mode. Or maybe I just suck. I mean, I'll say this right now. I am a filthy casual when it comes to fighting games. I play them, I know some combos, the bare minimum, and I just have fun. That's what I am. I don't play them competitively. There was a time where I was interested in competitive fighting games, but that time is long past and it was very brief. So right now, I just go with the flow. Like, yeah, maybe like sometimes I'm interested in like, oh, who's on the top of the tier list or something for a video game, especially Smash Brothers. But besides that, no, I don't really care. Although I do really like how wholesome the community can be sometimes. Not always. Sometimes the fighting game community is a bitch, is toxic as hell. But sometimes I like moments like at EVO. I remember hearing that at EVO recently, when Street Fighter 6 was being played, when Luke was being played, everybody jumped on the bandwagon of Alex Lee's meme, and everybody says, "We're all going down to Memphis!" And that was just so fun. I like moments like that. But just this energy and stuff like that. Or, you know, the EVO moments. It's like the EVO tradition, where every time EVO closes, they play a video of "You're all free now," and the crowd all say it, and it's just like that's cool. That's funny and that's cool at the same time. And I like moments like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's just really nice about the fighting game community. But of course, that doesn't always happen. Oh well, it is what it is. And yeah, this is something that struck me as odd. They just randomly show you a picture of Chun-Li, and that's it. Why? I don't know. Well, that was the end of Alpha 2. Game over. Took a long time, but I do recommend Alpha 2 for people who are interested in it. I just recommend the Alpha series in general. But we're not done yet with this commentary. Oh no, there's still one more game. And you guys already know because I already said it, you can easily see by the title. So before we go into the intermission, let's just look at these scores here. I got 2 lightnings and 1 cheese. Yum yum, I'm hungry right now. Intermission!
Monster! You killed my...
Yes, I killed your father. What is it with you women anyway? I killed my father too, and you don't hear me whining about it.
I just had to put it as an intermission. Now it's Alpha 3's time to shine, and as you can see from the intro, this, like, if Alpha 1 and 2 were already pre-energetic in their own right, Alpha 3 goes insane. I love how in your face this intro is. Show no mercy, go for it broke. Damn, face to face, brave or grave. Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Thank you, announcer. I know I already said it though. You don't need to say it again. Street Fighter Alpha 3, this game is so fun, and holy shit, the roster increased tenfold. And this is just the PS1 version. Go play Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max on the PSP. Holy fuck! That roster is insane. I've yet to play that version. One day I want to play that version. Because, damn. But the PS1 version, for what it is actually pretty decent. It's just that, just like Alpha 1 and 2, there's plenty of load times. Although I don't think they're as bad as they were with Alpha 2. At least in my opinion. Or Alpha 1, for that matter. But yeah, for this version, so Alpha 3 introduced a bunch of stuff. Like, mainly, the isms mechanic. There's the X-ism, which is pretty much the super street. So, these ism mechanics affect your meter at the bottom. The X-ism is pretty much how Super Street Fighter 2 did things. So, you got 1 meter, and then after that's filled up, you do a super move. And then there's the A-ism, which is pretty much the same as it was with the Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. So 3 levels, and you could do special moves depending on how much you have. That's a special move you can do. Very surprising that I was able to pull off the Raging Demon right away. And then there's the V-ism. And from what I've heard, V-ism, when you get that charged up, you can make unlimited custom combos. As long as your meters, well, during the time the meter has, and that is crazy. I've never tried V-ism because I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm not really the greatest with combos, but it's very interesting how Alpha 3 gives you these options and mechanics for the game, and combine that with a huge ass roster. Yeah, Alpha 3 is a good. But I still understand why people like Alpha 2, and by extension, Alpha 2 Gold more. I may get, that's a game I could get. The Street Fighter Collection. There was a Street Fighter Collection that was made for the PS1 and Sega Saturn back in 1997, and it came out on 2 discs. The first disc was Super Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, so it was a nice way to play Street Fighter 2 on the 5th generation of consoles. And then the second disc was Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, which is pretty much an enhanced version of Street Fighter Alpha 2, with basically adding Kami to the game, as sort of a preview to Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is interesting. Also, can I say how much I fucking love Street Fighter Alpha 3's announcer? Like, go for it, man! I love it. This game is just really fun. But again, like I said, I understand why people prefer Street Fighter Alpha 2 more, because after a while, these do kind of become a bit different. Like, these games are a bit different in terms of how they play. It's not like Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, where Alpha 2 was pretty much an update to Alpha 1. Alpha 3 just feels very different with the amount of options you have and the amount of modes you can get. Like, they have a tag team battle mode that's very reminiscent of X-Men vs. Street Fighter. They have World Tour that they added with the PS1 and Saturn versions and was also included in the later versions. And I hear that World Tour is best played on the PS1 and Saturn versions, especially the Saturn version, because the Saturn version, that is a fucking miracle. Because it's pretty much an arcade perfect port of Alpha 3. So you do need the 4 megabyte cartridge that came with X-Men vs. Street Fighter. They also made buttons for Alpha 3 and other games that required it, so that's nice. And it came very late into the life cycle of the Sega Saturn, so it was really odd. So like, they already had made Alpha 3 for the Dreamcast, but they were like, nah, let's do it for the Sega Saturn as well. And it was very late release, so that's why it's really expensive, like I said many times already. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit redundant, but again, it's just really surprising that they made Alpha 3 work on the Saturn. And it's probable that maybe they could have made Marvel vs. Capcom 1 work on the Saturn. But it was already a bit too late, and I think Capcom by that point was so done with Saturn onto the Dreamcast. So, yeah. Besides that, yeah, Alpha 3 is fun. Alpha 3 is really fun. It's just fun to play. Although I haven't played Alpha 3 as much as Alpha 1, simply because Alpha 1 was really the game that I got the PS1 version of. I would sometimes pop into training mode. Alpha 3, I had the 30th Anniversary Collection, but I don't always pop in the 30th Anniversary Collection. Only sometimes when I feel like playing the arcade versions of these games, or a game where I don't own a version of it, and I can't really get a version of it anytime soon, like Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. If I were to want to play Second Impact specifically, I would either play the arcade version emulated on my PC, the Dreamcast version with New Generation on Double Impact, or this arcade or the Anniversary Collection. I think because First Strike is the one that gets re-released more often, which makes sense. It's the best version, but you know, there's merit in re-releasing New Generation Second Impact, especially Second Impact, I'd say. But oh well, it is what it is. Street Fighter 3 First Strike is really good, and Second Impact has a busted Sean. Sean is really busted in the game, so fear for your lives. Yeah. Besides that, I do want to talk a little bit about Akuma, mainly the Raging Demon. Raging Demon is one of the weirdest command inputs I've ever seen in a fighting game. Because, yeah, there's really hard ones like the pretzel motions, like SNK fighting games. And maybe one day I'll talk about the SNK fighting games. For now, let's keep it to Street Fighter. Akuma's Raging Demon is like 2 light punches, go forward, press forward, then light kick, and then heavy punch. Like, that's odd, and you have to do them in quick succession, like I'm trying to do. Yeah, that's the thing. I only got one Raging Demon in this playthrough at the beginning with the Yonda. Every time I try to do another Raging Demon, I just am never able to do it ever again. And that saddens me, but oh well. And one thing about Alpha 3 that I also want to point out is that it's really easy to do combos. Like, it really feels like I can string attacks together much easier than Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. But like, going back to the Raging Demon thing with Akuma, and I remember that when I was trying to figure, like, is that move out? Because it's inherently badass. He just, like, comes to you and fucking murders you. I just wish that actually, like, if you KO'd an opponent in their last rounds, like, the music wouldn't even play again. Like, because when you do a Raging Demon, when you successfully heal it, it's like, it stops the music for a bit and then it comes back. I wish that for future Street Fighter games, if you KO an opponent in the last round, the music doesn't even come back. It just stays completely silent because it's like, oh shit, you did it. Oh, like, oh shit, you fucking murdered him. Holy shit. Like, that isn't even a KO, that's a kill. I remember practicing back in the 30th Anniversary Collection in training mode, and it was really hard to pull off, but eventually when I was able to do it in some matches, I felt really proud of myself. Again, I'm a casual fighting game guy, so doing a move like that is a bit hard for me. And in this game, you do need level 3 meter to be able to pull it off. I'm not sure. I think maybe with like if you're using Exism, you'd be able to pull it off with just a full meter, because the Exism just doesn't have the separation, the levels that the A meter, the Aism has. So yeah. But yeah. Oh, Alpha 3 also introduced Karen to the roster. Karen being sort of like this rich brat, who, I mean, she's not a bad person, but she is part of this family and all that stuff, and probably was the inspiration for Lily when she appeared in Tekken 5. Probably that, yeah. And she's also rivals with Sakura, which is interesting to say. She would later reappear in Street Fighter 5, which is interesting. I'm wondering if she'll ever come back. But that's the thing with Street Fighter 5. It brought back characters that we didn't see in Street Fighter 4. But also didn't bring back that many characters that Street Fighter 4 brought back. And didn't even bring that many characters from Street Fighter 4 itself. With a few exceptions. Like, a lot of the newcomers from Street Fighter 4, like El Fuerte, Rufus, Crimson Viper, did not come back in Street Fighter 5. I think off the top of my head, it was Jury and maybe someone else that were introduced in Seth, that were brought back. Besides that, not really. I mean, and then there were characters like Yin Yang that did not come back in Street Fighter 5, but Otto from Street Fighter 3 came back in Street Fighter 5, which is interesting. Dan was able to come back in both 4 and 5, and I hope he comes back in 6. But then there's Rose, which was in the Alpha series. And then she came back on 4, and then with 5 she would only come back in season 5, which from what I understand, season 5 was like a last minute addition. Like, they were not planning on doing a season 5, but stuff got a bit complicated with Street Fighter 6's development, and then Yoshinori Ono, which was the big head honcho behind the Street Fighter series for over like almost 2 decades, left Capcom. So a lot of changes were going on around that time, and Street Fighter 6 being pretty much delayed, they decided, okay, let's go back to Street Fighter 5 and just add a few more characters. And that's why they added, and I like that they added Dan, because it made it feel more casual and not as esports, because from what I understand, Street Fighter 5 was really trying to get on an esports crowd. It felt like there's fun to be had, but like not as much casual fun, you know. Until later, where Street Fighter 5 was redeeming itself and added more modes and all this stuff, and then Season 5 came, and they added Danny Biku, which is a character that's not really good. It's just a character you just have fun with, and I appreciate that, because with that season, it really felt like Street Fighter 5 wanted to redeem itself. It was already redeeming itself before then, but I like that Season 5 solidified that, you know. And then it gave us Luke, which was a tease to the future. And then, what other characters? I mean, there was Gil and Urien, which really were added because they wanted to connect with Street Fighter 3 to, you know, pretty much close the chronology. And I like that they did that, so that probably the game afterwards, Street Fighter 6, would be after Street Fighter 3, because you're already connecting Street Fighter 5 to Street Fighter 3. And I like that they did that. That they did the Street Fighter 6 as a follow-up to Street Fighter 3. Now we can like move past Street Fighter 3, and it's nice. It's really nice. Like, I understand why Street Fighter 4 and to some extent Street Fighter 5 were before Street Fighter 3, because they wanted to get as many characters, because Street Fighter 3, like, that's the big thing with Street Fighter 3. They canned a lot of characters from Street Fighter 2, which caught the hearts of so many people that seeing mostly all of them gone was a shame, you know. And over time, people would get used to the new Street Fighter 3 characters, but not everyone. Yeah. I do like that they brought Alex back in Street Fighter 5. Like, Alex is a character I would like to see him return. I'm not sure if he would return in Street Fighter 6, but it would be nice to see him return. Really, I don't know what the Street Fighter team is now thinking of, like, in terms of like other characters they want to bring or new characters they want to bring. Like, we got Aki, which was a new character, and then Ed and Akuma that are coming next. Those are veterans. Ed being from 5, Akuma being from Super 2 Turbo. So I really don't know what they're planning, but I'm really curious on what they do. Please bring back Dan. Please, I want Dan. And Sakura would be nice. So you get Blanca, Dan, and Sakura again because they're friends with each other. That's cool. But there's also there's also that like about Street Fighter 5. Any other character? I don't know. There's Nikali. I'm not sure if they'll ever bring him back because Nikali was definitely something. Definitely something. And then there was Rashid, which they brought him back, and people really like Rashid. There was Falk and Ez, which they're bringing back Ez, but Falk, I'm not sure if they'll bring her back. There was Abigail, which just everybody fucking hates him. But when he came in, I was just laughing my ass, and I was like, I also researched his voice actor was Xander Mobus, and I was like, oh shit, the guy who does the announcer Smash 4 and Ultimate, and Joker from Persona 5 is voicing this beefy monstrosity. That's funny. So, yeah. He's also a Final Fight character, so that's interesting. They brought back Cody in Street Fighter 5, so that's nice. Now being the president of Metro City, so that is interesting. Not sure if they'll ever bring Guy back. Depends on what they think. Maybe they'll bring Guy back in Street Fighter 6. Who knows? Who else? Off the top of my head. I mean, Gil, I'm not sure if Gil and Yuri, they probably won't be brought back because I don't think they want to emphasize the Secret Society anymore. Like, that was a thing for Street Fighter 3. And, I don't know. Maybe they'll bring it back. I don't know. Oh. Yeah, I added that in. It's like, he's dizzy. What do? Do I do a super move on him? Do we do a Raging Demon? Nah, I just punch him twice. Akuma during that situation. I should have played this out better. I was thinking of playing this out better, but I just got too into the conversation that I was like, oh shit. But yeah, it's now we're seeing Akuma versus Gen, and Gen, as you guys saw at the beginning of the match, they actually had a specific animation for fighting each other because Akuma and Gen are rivals, and I think Gen actually got killed off in one of these games. I think Street Fighter 4. He finally got killed off for good, or maybe Street Fighter 5. Like Akuma, they finally did the like a match to end it all, and Akuma actually killed Gen, which is interesting. And Gen was pretty old. Not as old as Zoro, but pretty old as well. Interesting. And Gen was a Kai from Street Fighter 1, I believe. So that was interesting. When they brought him back for Alpha and then pretty much became a mainstay. Teabag! Teabagging opponents. Classic fighting games. That was a fetch. I've never seen a battle like this. Yeah, I've never seen milk spill from a table. On a table, not from. Next up is Cammy, and it was interesting that besides her appearance in Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold, this was technically chronologically her first appearance in the series. And her backstory is that she's one of the dolls that Bison has for whenever his body succumbs to the energy that he's using for evil. He would use one of these dolls as replacements, and Cammy would have sort of a character arc on her own where she would be able to break off the Bison's control and then become her own person, and then fight her inner demons, and then be able to join a troop, Delta Red, I believe, that she would have a sort of a family of her own, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, but here it was like her first appearance, and then she has her own story mode, and then she would eventually break away from Bison's control, and that's pretty cool. You know, again, Street Fighter has interesting stories. Just sometimes how it conveys that story is not necessarily the best, but you know, it's cool. It's cool. And I really, you know what? Now I'm seeing these stages from Alpha 3, and they look really cool. I really like this one. It's Greece. It's Santorini, baby, and that's a place I would like to go to one day. It's totally not because it's the opening stage of Sonic Unleashed, and Sonic Unleashed is one of my favorite games of all time. only not because of that. It's only. I mean, it is a pretty beautiful place, so yeah, I'm naturally interested. I've just done, after this visit to Japan, one thing I like to do is just like go around many places, because there's been a bunch of countries I've not been to. It would be nice. But that was the fight against Cammy, and as we were wrapping up this Street Fighter retrospective, as I was wrapping up this commentary, might as well sort of do just briefly say my overall thoughts of these games. So Street Fighter 1, jank as fuck. Definitely the beginning of something. The music in the arcade version sucks, but it's better on the TurboGrafx-16 version, so there's that at least. Street Fighter 2, pioneer of a lot of stuff. If you're gonna play Street Fighter 2 nowadays, you either play Super Turbo or Hyper or Ultra on such. Street Fighter 3, very technical. I very much do like it, even if it's a bit hard for me. And I just, even though it was a big shift in terms of character roster, I do like many of the characters that they introduced, like Alex, Makoto, Ibuki, Yun and Yang, and people like that. Street Fighter Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3. I mean, I already told you, so I don't think I really need to say that again. Street Fighter 4, I've only played Ultra, I never played the older version of Street Fighter 4, although I've seen copies of the first Street Fighter 4 being sold, so maybe it's just for the Shinsengumi Guilds, I get that, just to try out. Although Ultra, when you have Ultra, there's not much of a reason to get other versions of Street Fighter 4. Again, this would be more for the Shinsengumi Guilds rather than everything. And I mean, I got Street Fighter 4 for Yi edition. Yeah, Street Fighter 4 is fun. It's fun. It's very much going back to what makes Super Turbo great. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo great. But I like its art style. I like the Japanese calligraphy. I don't know. It's a nice game. It was definitely like a return to form. Street Fighter 5, I've barely played any of it. It looks pretty cool. And Street Fighter 6, I really want to play it. I really, 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 really want to play it. I just wish I had a PS5 or a PS4. But you know what? For that one, I may as well go for the PS5 version because it probably would be better with load times. And again, I'm not getting a PS4. Might as well get a PS5. So, yeah. I guess wrapping this shit up. There's the fight against Sky, which he's talking about the master. I'm not sure if he's referring to Bison or someone else. I don't think we really get a conclusion for that. Or if we do, I don't know what that is. But there is one detail I like to talk about, which is like Ryu's character arc, because might as well. I do like that Ryu had to like fight his inner demons, and then he, like in Street Fighter 1, because and Bison wasn't even a thing in Street Fighter 1. It was Sagat, and Sagat was the main villain. He was the host of the tournament, I believe, and then Ryu was able to beat him at the end of the tournament. And then he did a massive Shoryuken on him that caused a big scar over his biceps, and that left him wanting for revenge. But then when Alpha won, he joined Shadowless, the evil organization that has Bison and eventually Vega and Balrog. And then he starts to regret it a little bit. And after Street Fighter 2, he retires from Shadowless and learns that revenge is not the option. And in Street Fighter 4, he's just kind of like going on his own ways. And Ryu has been dealing more with the evil Ryu experiments that happened during the Alpha games. I think Alpha 3 or Alpha 2. And has been basically battling his inner demons with evil Ryu and then Kage in Street Fighter 5. And now with Street Fighter 6, he's pretty much, at peace. And I like that. He's now able to pursue other things in life. With a beard. Oh, look, here's Bison. Interestingly enough, in Alpha 3, if you lose against Bison, I think the game just ends and he takes over. So, I actually did a save state here. I edited that out, but I actually did a save state here just so I could, actually win against Bison and get Akuma's ending. Just because why not? I don't want to end this with Bison taking over the world. Oh yeah, Alpha 3, his super move is Psycho Crusher. and and as you guys saw, it took a whole lot of my health bar. I was really playing it dangerously here, but thankfully, as you'll see right here, I KO'd him. Yeah, fuck you and your Psycho Crusher, Bison. I'll beat your ass for good. Sometimes you gotta drink water with these long commentary sections. Yeah, Street Fighter is just a really good, cool series. And you know what? I'd like to do other fighting game commentaries in the future. Don't know what the next one will be or when that will be. Because right now, like I said during, it's funny how I said in the Castle of Illusion commentary that I don't know what my next commentary will be. But then a few days after, like, oh, I think I know what my next commentary will be. And then there you go, you're watching it right now. But now, maybe I'll have an idea in a few days. But for now, I don't know what my next commentary will be. I just know that for this one, it's the 10th commentary. It's a bit of a celebration. And I was like, you know what, let's go with something big. Let's cover one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fighting game series of all time. And let's do a 3-in-1. Let's talk about Alpha 1, 2, and 3. I could have spiced this up and maybe do a Street Fighter 2, and an Alpha, and then a 3. But maybe I'll leave those for another time. Way in the future. Because this already is serving as the Street Fighter retrospective thing. And maybe I'll get other, and if I'm able to, maybe I'll get some guests on and do commentary with me, and then maybe they'll tell me of their own experiences with the series. Yeah, that'll be fun to do. But yeah, now we have beaten Akuma's story mode, and Gen is here, back, and we just defeated him, but he's back. You gotta do it. Whoa, there you go. And graphics go by fast unlike Alpha 2. And yeah, that was Street Fighter Alpha 3, and that was the Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3 commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have yourselves a damn good one. See you later, guys.